All right. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. How are you today?
Alhamdulillah, fine, sir.
Fine, sir.
Okay, so welcome to the class. So before we start our lesson today, let's pray first. Pray begins. Amen. Okay, so this is the last lesson, and this is Arafah Day, as we know that for the one who are Muslim. Maybe some of you are fasting today, and this is afternoon, the last lesson. So maybe it will be difficult for you to listen to the lesson. I hope you are fresh still, like in the morning. You're not feeling sleepy, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So as usual, before we start, let's fill the attendance. I'm going to give you the link again in the chat room. And you know already the link, actually. The link is the same. So please fill the attendance in the link in the chat room. Anyone absent today? From the morning? No? Everyone is here? Good. Sorry, I ran out my battery. Let me charge my laptop first. Right. Did you fill the attendance? Yes. Can we start? We can start, yeah? Let's start the lesson. Today is lesson number 7. My computer is getting slower now. I don't know why. Okay. Did you see the slide?
No, sir.
Not yet, sir. Not yet, sir. Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet.
It's coming now, right?
Already. Yes, sir.
Already.
Good. So it's still loading. Okay, so it is lesson 7 now, video conference. After lesson 6, we did last day in the Google Classroom. We made some chemistry research. Okay, I haven't checked your work yet, but inshallah before next week, I'm going to check that one, and I'm going to return to you your work so you can see your score. Okay. So what we are going to see in lesson 7, in lesson 7, we are going to move on to the introduction to laboratory. Okay, after we know a little bit about the chemistry, now we know that chemistry is an experimental science. So that's why laboratory will be very important for us. For doing the experiment, we have to do it in the laboratory. So that's why before we enter the laboratory, there must be some rules, there must be some regulation that you have to understand, that you have to know. Yeah. So before entering the laboratory, you should learn this thing. So today, the thing that we are going to learn is about the safety in working in the laboratory. work safety in the laboratory. Safety is always coming first in the lab. Like now in the pandemics, yeah, health is always coming first, right? Before any other things. Healthy is always the first one in the pandemic situation. This is the same thing in the lab. What is the first thing in the lab? Not study, not learning something. The first thing in the lab is safety. So you have to make sure that you are safe in learning or conducting your experiment in the laboratory. So that's why we have to learn first the safety rules. How do we work safely in the lab? Okay. So this is what we're going to learn today. The first thing that we are going to see is about safety rules. Yeah, there must be some of the rules that you have to follow to work safely. Okay, so can you see the picture in your screen? Yes.
Yes, sir. Clearly.
There
Yes.
are
Yes, sir.
important rules, lab safety rules that you have to know, that you have to follow when you are entering the lab. Actually, there are so many safety rules that you have to know. But I mentioned only some of them, which I thought that is very important to know to you, and is the crucial things that's always happen in the lab in the high school. That's why I'm going to explain this picture all. Okay, let's see one by one. The first one, live experiment at home. What does it mean? You're going to do the experiments in the lab, especially for the experiment which are using chemicals. So don't do experiment which are using chemicals in outside the lab, So don't do it at home. For example, in here, of course, in our school, the contact is in the what we call this in dorm. Generally, maybe student taking some chemical from the lab and they are doing the experiment in the dorm, so it is not true. Or doing the experiment in the classroom, so it is not true also. So always when you have chemicals, you're going to do the lab in the laboratory. You're going to do the experiment in the laboratory. Maybe some instruction can be given by teacher by the supervision of the teacher, under the supervision of the teacher. Maybe you can do also the lab session in not in the lab but in any other place, but always there will be a supervisor that will control you, either it is teacher or assistant. But without any supervisor, always you are going to do the lab experiment in the lab. And also, you can do some simple experiment which is not using chemical, which is dangerous. For example, you can do experiment which is using chemical that you use in daily life. You can also do that at your home or that at dorm without any supervising or supervision. But or of course, still it is need instruction from the teachers. Okay, but most of the time you're going to do the experiment in the lab. Okay. The next thing is knowing the location of safety equipment. There must be some safety equipment in the lab. In the normal lab, in the ideal lab, there are some safety equipment. What are those? For example, you see this picture. This is an APAR. We call this one fire extinguisher in English. APAR ya, alat pemadam api. The red one, yeah, the red a tube like that. So you have to know where is the location of this equipment. In the case of there is something happen, burning something or something happen in your experiment, accidents. So you have to know the what safety equipment. Safety box, maybe there must be also exist in the lab. Kotak P3K ya, safety box or safety APAR extinguisher like this. Or something there must be shower yeah, for taking shower, but it is not shower like in your home. It is shower for the laboratory. I'm going to show you in the following slide what does it mean shower in the lab. And also eye washer, yeah, to to clean your eyes, because eye is very important. So sometimes it's easily to be irritated. So in the lab also there must be eye washer or eye shower in the lab. But unfortunately, this is, I told you, the reality. Unfortunately, in our lab in Banua, we don't have such an ideal lab with all this safety equipment exists in our lab. Even though we don't have this APAR or fire extinguisher in our lab. But it's not a problem. But ideally, the lab must have safety equipment. Yeah, the one that I told you, ice washer or shower or what P3K box or safety box or this fire extinguisher. Unfortunately, we don't have that one in our lab. But later, when you go to university, I'm sure that the university in the Indonesia have already using the standard lab safety. So even though in a very let's say a low university or a university which is not very famous, even though that's university, they will have this standard for the lab safety. For ULM, for example, in our Banjarmasin, in our council, we have ULM. ULM is very good university, so they have a very safe lab. So later when you go to university, you're going to see some safety equipment exist in the lab. Okay, another thing is know what to do in the case of an accident. So if there is an accident, you have to know what you are going to do. So what thing that you should do first, for example, if you burn your hand or something is spilling out in your bench, you have to know what should you do first. So this is important for you. If there's something accident happen in the lab, you have to know what to do. Of course, the first thing you have to know is to asking your instructor or your teachers. Another thing is don't experiment on yourself. I'm sure that, and I know that you are now growing children. You are not actually. It's not true if I telling you your children. You are growing teenager now. You are not children anymore. So you are have good thoughts, right? You have to think when you are doing something. So you will know that many material in the lab are very dangerous. Equipment is also dangerous. So don't play with that one. Don't even do your own experiment. Maybe you have a very high curiosity. You want to do something by yourself, but please don't do it in the lab, because it can be fatal for you. Even it can make your body injured, or the worst case, it can take your life. So that's why it's very important to not doing your own experiment. Always you're going to follow the instruction. As you can see here, always you're going to follow the instruction from your teachers or your assistant. Unfortunately, also in our lab, we don't have assistants, so we have only teachers. So I'm going to supervise you. I'm going to controlling you when you are working in the lab. And I'm going to give the instruction what you're going to do in the lab session. Okay, another thing is dress appropriately. This one I'm going to explain in detail in the following slide about how you're going to dress, what kind of thing that you are going to use, you're going to wear when you're coming to the lab. I'm going to explain it in more detail in the following slide. And another thing, this one, also important, don't taste or snip chemicals. Even though that chemical are safe, you know that chemical are safe to be tasted, but don't do it if that chemical are in the lab. For example, sugar is chemical, salt is chemical also. And we are going to use that sugar and salt in our experiment. Yeah, there are some experiments that using sugar and salt. But when you see sugar and salt in the lab, don't taste it. You said, oh, this is sugar, just taste it. No, don't taste it any material, even though you know it is safe. If it is in the lab, it is not safe. Yeah, this is the principle. If it is in the lab, it is not safe. Why? You know that there is sugar, there is salt in the lab, and we know that it is safe to be eaten. But if it is in the lab, maybe it's already contaminated by any other materials. Or maybe it's already being used in the experiment, which is already mixed with another dangerous material. Who knows about this? So that's why any materials, any chemicals, even though you know it is safe, don't taste it or smell it with your nose. Don't taste it and don't smell it. Okay? So this is important thing. Another one, don't play mad scientist. What does it mean, mad scientist? Mad scientist is scientists that want to do something which is very interesting and very make yourself happy. Yeah. For example, making something exploding, or you want to mix this, oh, this material is blue, this material is red. What happens if I mix it? What color it will be? So don't do that, okay? Because some material cannot be mixed with another materials. It can be fatal for you. For example, there is a material called a sodium. Sodium is like a salt, yeah, like a salt. It is white in color. It is like a salt. That sodium, for example, even though if very small sodium, for example, is only maybe a small amount of sodium, if you put it into the water, it can make a very big explosion. If you try this one, if you just want to try to put this small thing into the water, if you don't know, that can happen explosion and it can hurt you. So that's why don't play mad. Don't joking around in the lab. Don't play any physical thing that can hurt your body in the lab. Don't horse the lab. Don't berlarian. Yeah, horsing around in the lab. It's dangerous for you. And then another thing is don't eat or drink in the lab. Even you bring it, it is not allowed. You're not allowed to bring your food or drink. Even drink, you're not allowed to bring your drink in the lab. So without food and without drink in the lab. And the last thing, which is also very important, I'm going to see in detail about this, disposing of the waste. You know that after you're doing your experiment, there will be a waste that you're going to throw. Yeah? You have to throw the waste after you cleaning your bench or your material. And then after that, you have to dispose it, or you have to throw it, the waste. In chemistry, in the lab, the waste must be managed. Yeah, it must be managed. You cannot easily throw the waste in any places. You cannot just throw it in this dustbin or in this dustbin. No. In the classroom is easy. If there is a dustbin in your classroom, you can throw everything in the dustbin. But in a lab, you cannot do it. You have to follow the instruction, follow the guideline, how to throw the waste. Yeah, how to throw the waste. You have to follow the guideline. So this is what I told you. I'm going to explain in detail about the dress that you have to wear in the lab. So those are the minimum things that you have to wear in the lab. What are those? The first one, you have to use the lab coat or lab apron. This is called as a lab coat or lab apron. This is generally wear by doctor in the hospital. The lab coat which is white in color. So we have that lab coat also in our lab, so you don't have to bring from your home. So we are going to use the one which is in the lab. And the next one is gloves is also important. This glove is the one which is made by latex. Yeah, made by latex. The yellow one, the color is generally yellow, but we have also different colors, but generally it's yellow. And generally they are used in the hospital. Doctor are generally using these gloves. So we are going to use these gloves also in the lab. It's very cheap. You can buy these gloves in the pharmacy, yeah, in the drugstore. You can buy it. Later, when you come to the school, I hope that every class will have the stock of the gloves in your classroom. So when you need it, you can use it. Okay. And another thing is goggles. Goggles is also important. Is like eyeglasses to protect your eyes. Okay. So this is very essential. So you have to wear this one in every experiment. Actually, we have also the goggles in the lab, so you don't have to bring by yourself from home. So we have also in the lab. As we know that eyes is very important. Something can break your eyes or can irritate your eyes easily. So that's why you have to protect your eyes by using the goggles. And another one, you have to use pants. As you can see here, long pants must be used, and it's obvious you are now high school student. You are using that long pants, and also shoes. Yeah, you have to wear your shoes when you entering the lab. Not barefoot, yeah. You have to wear your shoes. Another thing is there are chemicals and apparatus that we're going to see in the lab. So you have to know how to use that apparatus, and you have to know how to use that chemical. We are going to learn that one also, of course. This apparatus is using for what? This chemical are using for what? All of them must be known exactly and known well by the student. Another thing is, as we mentioned before, you have to follow the direction from the lab books. If you don't have lab books, then there will be instruction from your teachers, or sometimes your teachers are using the books, or sometimes they will write in the whiteboard what you are going to do. All of them are called as the instruction. You have to follow it very well. And don't think no new idea in the lab. Yeah, always, if you have idea, you're going to ask first your teachers. Don't do anything which is not in the instruction. Don't think that you are clever enough to have the new idea and then you're going to do your idea. No, every idea, everything that you taught have to be asked to the teachers or supervisor before you do it. Okay, it's also important. And another thing also important, cleanliness is also important. After you're doing your experiment, you have to clean all the apparatus that you use and also your bench. Yeah, as I mentioned today before, maybe when you are cleaning this materials, sometimes you need to dispose something. Yeah, sometimes you have to throw something. So in throwing the waste, you have to mention about the guideline. Don't easily throw the waste in the place it is, but you have to follow the guideline, because every chemical will have different guideline how to throw that chemical or dispose the chemicals. Okay, another thing is that you have to know in the lab is labeling. What is labeling? Labeling is the label which is stick in the in the container of the chemicals. You know that there is a bottle, for example, a bottle of chemicals. So if the chemicals are going to be used in your experiment, you have to see first the label in the container. You have to see the label in the bottle. You have to learn that one, that label. What is written on there? You have to know. Generally, what is written on the label? On the label, generally, there will be a product name. For example, it is plamosol, the name of this chemical that is in this label. You have to know. So make sure that the chemical that you take are true for the one which are going to use. For example, if you want to use plamosol, make sure that you are taking this plamosol, not any other chemical. So you have to see first the label. You are going to see also, of course, in the label what is inside that chemicals. For example, this plamosol is inside. There is aliphatic hydrocarbon and toxisol. It's like a label in the drug, right? If you have a medicine, for example, there's a label also like this. So you have to know before you use it. And what is important also in the label is pictogram. This GHS, we call it is GHS pictogram. What does this symbol means? We are going to learn in detail in the following slide. Yeah, I'm going to explain in a little bit detail about this pictogram. It is important. Another thing is a signal word. There is a signal to show you what is the dangerous level of the chemicals. For example, it's a danger chemical, so you have to be careful when you are taking this chemical or using this chemical. And there will be a hazard statement, what can happen in this chemical if you touch it, if you smell it, or if you use it, what will happen to this chemical. It's also written in this label. Precautionary statement also is used or written in the label. So you have to you have to read this one. For example, store lock up in a well-ventilated place. So it must be this chemical stored in the well-ventilated place, the place where have a good ventilation, yeah, or any other precautionary statement. For example, you wash hand thoroughly after handling. After you handling, you have to wash your hand, for example. And the last one, there must be a supplier info. So make sure that this chemical are valid and it is made by the what standard or trustable factory, chemical factory. So you have to know the supplier info also. Okay, so this is the label. The next one is about storage. Okay, there are some of the things that I want to explain here about the storage. Let's read this one first. Chemicals should be stored safely and properly to provide a safe workplace. So if you want to using chemical, you have to know how to place it. Even though the chemical that you use will decide you where to do the experiment. For example, maybe you have to do the experiment in the next of the windows, because sometimes some asap, yeah, or smoke can happen in the experiment or from the chemicals. So you have to doing your experiment near the windows, for example, or you have to do the experiment in the bench which is made by glass, for example, because some chemical can be dangerous if used in the place which is not made by glass. Or for example, you have to do your experiment in the fume hood. There is a place in the lab called as a fume hood. Generally, this place have a ventilation and it has windows like this, so you can close it like cupboard. Yeah, generally that's fume hood are used if you are working with the dangerous acid that can make a smell or can give a smoke, or it's dangerous. So generally when it's dangerous, you cannot do the experiment in the normal bench. You have to do it in the fume hood. Later I'm going to show you what is fume hood. It's like a cupboard, but it has a ventilation. And SOP or standard operation procedure must be used in storage the chemical. You cannot store any chemical by yourself. Yeah, you have to follow. Chemical A must be put it in here, chemical B here, chemical C here. So you cannot just put it in every place. Yeah, every chemical will have their own place. A storage guideline must be provided. Yes, it is, of course. Before you store it, the chemical, you have to see the guideline. Chemical storage rooms should be in good ventilation. As we know that ventilation is very important, because some humidity, kelembapan, and temperature also can make the chemicals are not working well. So that's why you have to store it in a good ventilation, in a well ventilation place. Even though some of the chemical can react by itself because of the temperature or humidity. So that's why chemical storage room must be provided to store the chemical. And all chemicals should be stored in the following SDS. SDS is internationally accepted safety data sheet. You can see from the internet what is SDS mean. It is internationally accepted information to store the chemicals. That's about the storage. Then the next one is global harmonization system. Like I told you before, I'm going to explain in detail GSS, global harmonization system. So it's about the pictogram. Remember about the pictogram in the label? So that pictogram have a special meanings. For example, this pictogram means it is gas under pressure. For example, you have the gas, right? Your mom have gas for cooking, right? That's LPG. That LPG generally they will have this symbol. It means that there is a gas under the pressure inside. So you have to be aware of this. It can be dangerous also. Oxidizer, this means oxidizer, it is flammable, can be burn easily, or can make another substance burning. So it is oxidizer, this symbol. This scary symbol is a very scary symbol. It is a skull symbol. Skull, yeah, not school, but skull symbol. So I think everybody understands that a scary symbol means it is toxic. So when you see this symbol, then the chemical inside will be toxic. Even though you cannot inhale this chemical because it can be it can make your respiration system dangerous, or it can kill you even. Ingestion or skin exposure also, when you touch this kind of material also can be fatal for yourself. Another one is corrosive. This one, corrosive, membuat karat ya. But what does it mean membuat karat or corrosive? It doesn't mean that it will make the equipment berkarat. No, it doesn't mean like that. It means that if you touch this material with your hand, then your hand will be wounded. It will be wounded because it's corrosive. It can even destroy the metal. If it can destroy the metal, imagine that it is spilled in your hand. What will happen? If metal is broken or destroyed, what will happen to your hand if you touch this kind of corrosive substance? So this is also dangerous. Another one, this symbol, it is moderate health hazard. It means that be careful with this chemical. It is not very dangerous, but be careful. It can make irritation. It can make skin sensitizer or allergy, nervous system effect like pushing, drowsiness, or dizziness. And generally, it is not it is not long time. It is only temporary. This kind of hazard. So that's why it is a moderate health hazard. But also there is a serious health hazard symbol like this. This is very serious. It can be fatal for your life. As we know that there's some chemical that can make cancer, can make reproductive toxicity. It can kill your reproductive system. Respiratory sensitization or asthma, something like that. Something can broke the organ, important organ in your body, liver, kidney, nervous system, lungs, and aspiration hazard. So be careful with the symbol. This is a very serious health hazard symbol. And the next one is this hazardous to the environment. This chemical can hazard or make destroy the environment. As you can see here, the picture of plant and fish, it symbolizes the environment. So don't waste or don't throw this kind of chemical in the environment because it will destroy the environment. So those are the things about the global harmonization system. We have different global harmonization system also. This is only some of the things, not all of them. We can see from the internet the other global harmonization system or GSIs. This is what I explained to you. There must be PPA or personal protective equipment like a PPA box, kotak P3K in the lab. This is eye washer that I explained to you. You use it like this because we know that eyes is very important. It's easily to be irritated by chemicals. So you have to wash your eyes after you doing your experiment. And this is the software that I explained before. So if something spill it into your body, don't think directly go to the shower, pull the slot, and you're going to wet. You're going to be wet. No problem. Being wet is no problem. Otherwise, it's dangerous for your body. So no problem. Mandi basah nggak masalah, asal tidak berbahaya. So if something spilling into your body, then go directly to the shower and you're taking bath with the shower. You're going to be wet, but no problem. But unfortunately, we don't have this equipment, this safety equipment in our lab. And this protective equipment I explained before, we are not using hearing protection much because this is a very special equipment only for advanced experiment, but it's not really essential for us. But protective glove is important, eye protection is important, protective clothing is important. These three are essential for us. And it is about the disposal guideline. If you want to dispose the waste, you have to see what kind of chemical that you have. In noxious aqueous waste, if the chemical are liquid and it is dangerous, what should you do? You have to give more water before you dispose it. Before you throw it, you give more water. Give water to this chemical, yeah? So after you give water, then you can dispose it, you can throw it to the sink or to the wastafel, okay? But before it, give water more. It is for the aqueous waste, for the waste which is liquid. Organic solvent, ini juga sama. Solvent is also liquid, so this kind of waste also you have to give more water first before you throw it. But there are some chemical which is red list. Red list means dangerous chemical. You cannot dispose this red list chemical directly to the sink or to the dry nasser. You have to ask your teachers to dispose this kind of chemical. There are management, there are a rule to manage this kind of chemical, which is very dangerous, which is in the red list, how to dispose it. So you cannot directly dispose it into the dry nasser or into the wastafel. Solid waste is easy. Solid waste, if it is broken glassware, for example, there is a place where you're going to throw the solid waste. But the liquid waste is very important. You have to be careful about the liquid waste. Okay? So those are the wastes. We don't have much time. We have only under 1 minute. So next lesson, I'm going to continue with the equipment. I'm going to explain you what is the function of that equipment, but it is next lesson, inshallah. So for this week, this is enough for today. And I'm going to give you homework in the Google Classroom. So please stay tuned to your Google Classroom, see what the homework that I give to you. And I have a good news for you. There is no post-test for today. No post-test for today because tomorrow is holiday and tomorrow is Eid Mubarak. So I'll not give you a post-test for today. Okay, so see you next week. Have a nice long weekend. Have a nice long holiday. See you next week. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
If you have a question, you can ask to me in the chat, WhatsApp, yeah, or in the Google Classroom. See you.